Okay, maybe I'll get started in the interest of time. So yeah, it's great to be here. And so like almost everyone else at ISMB this year, I'm going to be talking about large language models. Okay, so I'm going to talk about them in the context of publishing, writing, plagiarism, and maybe text recycling too. So just to give a quick advert, so I'm the editor-in-chief, along with Tom Lengau of Bioinformatics Advances, which is the official society journal. We've been running for 3 years now, and we expect to have about 350 submissions in the year. So we're growing really well. We cover all areas of computational biology. For our scope, think, would I see this ISMB? If yes, it's in scope. So we also take transfers from other journals such as Bioinformatics, where things are sort of out of scope or don't match the impact. And we're not overly concerned with perceived scientific impact. We have pretty fast decision making. So first decision in 30 days, significant discount for ISCB members. And Thomas and I are really happy to discuss any ideas that you have for submissions. Okay, so here's a paper that I was editing, I think a week or two back. And so hands up, everyone who thinks that a human wrote this text. Yeah, no one thinks a human wrote this text. A few little intricate, meticulous buzzwords in there that maybe make me think ChatGPT may have been involved. And so there's this tool called GPT-0. You can cut and paste text in, and it will give you a guess as to whether this is a human or AI written. In this case, yeah, this is written by an AI. Is that a bad thing? Well, maybe, maybe not. It sort of really depends on the case that these things are used in. And it can sometimes be quite difficult to understand what's appropriate and what's not. And so I'll be talking near the end of this presentation about some guidelines that ISCB has produced for journals and to use. So on the positive side, so LLMs, they're incredibly useful tools for writing. So you can very rapidly generate content. If you ever suffer from writer's block, this is a great way to get unblocked really quick. They can be excellent for rephrasing your garbled text. Sometimes they may not rephrase it sort of quite accurately or correctly, but they're a real boon, I think, for non-native English speakers. They can really fix up your grammar good, and yeah. The frontier models now, the sort of the ChatGPTs, Anthropic's Claude, they are getting really powerful. They have these huge prompts. You can upload all sorts of information, images and stuff to help get the models to understand what it is you're trying to achieve in your writing. So here's just a sort of an example I made for this presentation. So in my team, we're brainstorming an idea for a paper we're going to publish. We have a bit of preliminary data. And so here in Claude, I've uploaded the instructions to authors for Bioinformatics Advances. And I've uploaded the sort of the PDF of what we've written so far. And I'm just asking it, well, which category would it fit best with? Are there changes to what I've got that I need to make to make it fit the journal format? Could you add them sort of titles and headings? And yeah, it does a really nice job of that. So it gives me the structure that I need that fits that journal. And so you can see, well, where does this sit on the sort of this is okay to this is not okay? I think in this case, this is probably okay, but it's a small step to say, oh, could you just write the paper as well, please, right? And maybe that's not the right thing to do. Now, I presented on LLMs at Lyon last year, and I'm going to recycle a couple of slides from that. So what I said then was that LLMs can generate bullshit very, very quickly and easily. So here, I've asked it to write an abstract for a scientific paper entitled microRNA 122 overexpression reverses the aging process in mouse neurons. And it's very happy to write something that's extremely plausible. This is definitely beyond what is acceptable, right? This is clearly wrong, and you should not do this. And also, the LLMs can very easily fabricate data, just completely make this stuff up. So I made a table of data from this fictitious paper. I sort of it had a second prompt to sort of make it fit a bit better with science. So these tools are really perfect for people who don't care about science and just want to have their names on papers because it helps their promotion or something like this. There are people like this around. And there was this paper saying fake scientific papers are alarmingly common. So this is a real worry and a big problem for the scientific publishing community. And it's getting progressively more and more difficult to tell these things, to spot these things. So I guess one thing, so I haven't really talked about plagiarism and text recycling here. So maybe I'll just say a word on that. So, you know, plagiarism, cutting and pasting text from other people's papers, right? And recycling is sort of self-plagiarism. So there are very good tools out there for detecting that kind of thing. And most of the publishers have them or use them. But actually with the large language models, it's quite easy to ask for sort of light rewrites of things, making it more difficult to detect. And a sort of another issue around plagiarism is, so these large language models will generate text, but where does that text come from? And it's been trained on the scientific literature. And it's been shown that sometimes the language models are so powerful that they can actually just regurgitate text from their training. So if you use these things, you may actually be unwittingly plagiarizing other people's work in a way that these tools might be able to detect. I don't think anyone's published on this yet, but something to be aware of. Okay, so a year and a half ago, we were thinking, well, we really need a policy for this so that people understand what is and is not acceptable. Things are changing very fast, so this policy is subject to change. So what we decided to do is draft this policy. We did this in consultation with the board of directors, and it's intended for the Society Journal, but also Bioinformatics has signed up, and this is applied to other society proceedings. So yeah, and we're open to your feedback about this policy. If you think there are things that you agree with or disagree with, we're really interested to hear. So we have common acceptable uses. So as an aid to correcting written text, checking grammar, spelling, that's all good. Our policy says as an aid to translation, this is okay, but the author is responsible for that final translation and its veracity. So of course, people will be publishing about large language models and their use, and that's perfectly okay. And as an evaluation technique as well to find inconsistencies and other anomalies. So yeah, it's permissible to include LLM text, but you should say when that's being used. We say that it's okay in code writing. However, the authors are absolutely responsible for the correctness of that code. So it needs checking. Documentation of code, these models are extremely good for that, and that's also acceptable. Now in red at the bottom, so this policy, we presented this a year ago, and we're proposing some updates. And the first update here is limiting the use of generative AI. So you should only use, or generally you should be very careful. Maybe something like a graphical abstract would be okay. But anything to do with scientific data, keep well away. Then the unacceptable uses, and I see Francis is standing up, so I'll truncate this. So it is not acceptable to use large language models to write your scientific paper, okay? So they cannot be listed as authors. That's against the ISMB guidelines. And also we've added since last time, it's not okay to use a large language model to do your review, okay, folks? We didn't even think people would think of this. But yes, you have to read the paper and make scientific judgments about it. Okay, and generative AI should not be used for making figures. Okay, so if there are cases that you're not sure about, please contact us and I'll stop there.